Hey, John, want to chat a little bit about paying sales reps. So basically, what's on my mind, we at Textbook, we're currently hiring a new sales rep. We'll probably be hiring two here in the next, few months. And we are debating changing our sales compensation structure or tweaking it a little bit. Whenever it's hard to change comp when you have reps, right? Changing how they get paid can be challenging, right? And stressful and things like that. But now we're looking to replace a rep and, add to the team. So it seems like it's a good time to kind of evaluate that. I would love to hear from your experience. How have you paid sales reps? How do you guys currently do it? What have you learned from maybe other ways that didn't work out so well?
Yeah, totally. I mean, exciting times for one. Adding
Love it.
sales reps is such a fun / scary part of business. So I'm pumped for you. I know kind of the struggles you guys have gone through
Yeah,
with some of these positions, but
for sure. Yeah,
but
that's
yeah,
tough.
I mean, like, and I think sales rep compensation, it's something that's so vital to the whole structure of bringing somebody on. And I love it. Like, I think this is such a fun topic because it lets you use creativity and
Mhm.
try to like build something that works for you. And there's no right answer. And we've tried a bunch of things. So I can dive into a couple of them. I've had a bunch of discussions with other business owners in the painting industry over the last few months. A lot of people end up finding PaintScout when they're looking to add a sales rep. It
Makes
seems to
sense.
be a really critical time for them because they're trying to figure out how to pass off this information into a standardized, repeatable, accurate way.
Mhm.
And they have a lot of questions around how to successfully bring this person on. And so when you set the compensation model, it has pros and cons.
Okay.
It will
Hmm.
influence people's behavior in a direction. Depending on what you do,
Hmm.
it's going to have positive results and also going to have some negatives. And so you need to understand that coming in. I've heard a lot of people, jump straight to straight commission.
Hmm.
I want a full-time rep on straight commission, and my first reaction is, who's going to take that deal?
Hmm.
Um, we've done some straight commission, but it has been once the person has been an established team member. We did that years ago, and it has its pros and cons too. So we'll get into that. But I've always challenged people to say, like, when you bring on a rep, what's the environment you want to create? Do you want a team? Do you want to have a long-term person here, or you're just looking for essentially like a, hired sales assassin?
Yeah.
And if you have no commitment from them to them, why do they have any commitment to you?
Yeah.
And so
Sure.
structuring these things so that it's kind of a win-win on both sides. You're going to take risk, and you want them to also have to take some risk too. So
Hmm.
anyways, I'm excited to get your thoughts on this. I'll kind of go through the four that I know of really briefly, and then why don't we dig into each one of them?
Okay.
So
Yeah. What
first
are
off,
yeah?
yeah,
What are the
sorry,
main four options? So straight commission.
straight commission. So you're paying a percentage of the
Okay.
job value straight off, no matter how the job performs, and you're just given that commission. So we'll dig
Okay.
into that one too. Um, we've got salary plus commission. So this is where you would, you know, introduce some type of a salary as a baseline, and then that person is going to get commission on top of that. We've got commission on gross profit. So this is an interesting one where you know you got to sell good jobs in order to get paid.
Hmm.
If you sell really good jobs, you get paid more. And then the last one, which I know you've been a fan of over the years, is salary plus bonus plus commission.
Hmm.
In a way, we also use a similar structure on our team, but I'm excited to hear from you about that. So that's all four of them, or is there anything I'm missing there?
I think there's variations of each of those, right? You can do a draw, which I think is just going to add extra complication to the conversation. We can
Mm-hmm.
maybe touch on that, but and I think the other part that can add some, you know, significant complications. Is this a W-2 employee or is this an independent sales rep? For the most part, what we see from business owners in the painting industry are W-2 model sales reps. But there are, significant independent sales rep models in like home improvement. I know some of like the bigger window companies, or even some roofing companies and things like that do utilize a more independent model. Again, I'm not a huge fan. There's certainly tax implications and all sorts of stuff that I don't think are worth diving into all the details on. Here, I
Mm-hmm.
think we probably just focus on more of that employee model for the sake of our conversation.
Totally. So employee model. Um, I think so. Overall, the question I get a lot is, what is the percentage
Hmm.
should we be paying?
Yeah.
Any thoughts there? I have my thought, but I'd love to get yours there first.
Yeah, I mean, I think we maybe even talked about it at one other point, but I believe there's a fairly good consensus around the numbers of like 6 to 8%
Mhm.
um, of total top line sales, um, somewhere in that range. You know, I think it depends on exactly. I think if you wanted to broaden that out, you could say 5 to 10, and I think that's going to come back to like if it's at the high end, it's probably for somebody who generates all their own leads and you're taking what would be marketing cost and paying it to them in the form of prospecting and networking and things like that.
Mhm.
And I think if you're down into that like 5% range, you're probably providing them with all sorts of other benefits, um, you know, vehicles or retirement plans or, health and all sorts of other things that are part of that total compensation package. But 6 to 8 seems to be what I hear the most common. How about you?
Yeah, that's pretty much it too, and that number makes sense to me for a few reasons. One is that it kind of mimics what like an average painting contractor might make in terms of profit,
Hmm.
and so it's kind of aligning interests to say like this is a very valuable role, and so that number
Hmm.
hopefully is inspiring to build a team.
Yep.
And I think it also matches into when you run the numbers on a well functioning painting company
Hmm.
that works well.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's what I hear too. And
Cool.
so what we're talking about when we're looking at these, we're trying to build that structure around that percentage, right? So we're trying to essentially take whatever fringe benefits, whether vehicle,
Sure.
health benefits, retirement stuff,
Hmm.
and build that back into the compensation model such that it meets our company's values
Hmm.
and it aligns with the individual who's joined the company,
Hmm.
right? Like I've also heard rumors of people allowing someone to choose whatever method you want as long as it fits into that. I personally, I would find it too challenging to align the team, but I think it could be possible to have variations, but we've just chosen to have one. So which one do you like the most out of this?
Well, I mean, so the one I it's so complicated. So the one I like the most is the one that we use, I guess. I do think it really has to align with like the business owner's core values and the sales professionals' values and kind of what they're looking for have to align. And the compensation structure is a like kind of byproduct of that. So you talked about it at the beginning of like, having long-term team members, team oriented. That's very much how I want our sales reps and our sales team to function. I don't want, lone wolf, independent minded sales reps. There's always some like independent mindedness when with somebody in a sales role. I think in general, somebody that's going to do well in sales has a good amount of that like individual self-reliance and competitiveness, I guess. But I'm trying to find that balance where they want to be a team player too. So we like the idea of having a salary for that reason. It's going to give them some comfort, some peace of mind. They know that they're going to be taken care of. We want the salary to generally be about 50% of their total compensation, in that ballpark. And then we want them to be able to go earn the rest of it, so that they do have a high incentive to perform well and feel like they're not limited on what they can earn. Um, but there is a limit to how little they can earn if they are struggling and they have a bad month. They hopefully know that salary is still going to cover most of their bills and things like that.
So you like to set that standard for the team, so it's salary, and then you mentioned commission and bonus, or bonus and
Mhm.
commission. Do you want to kind of walk through that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, we do salary plus bonus and commission. And so the bonus is more or less based on three factors. How much do we sell? Do we hit the sales goal? If we hit the sales goal, we're going to earn the bonus. Everything after the sales goal, we're going to earn a commission on. That commission is typically lower because of salary and the other compensation. So we're not paying like 8% commission on everything over the goal, because again, we do have to factor in the salary and the bonus money that they're earning as well. The reason that I like that is we use an employee model for all of our painting. And why that's significant is might come as a shock. It's not always easy to go instantly hire painters. And so we need to have some predictability into how much work are we going to have for our crews in a month or 2 or 3 months from now, right? There's that lag of whatever I'm selling this month is what we're going to produce in a month or 2 or 3. And so I need to have some predictability. I don't want sales reps to have these huge swings in terms of what they're selling. One month they sell 25,000, the next month they sell 250. And it's just like 1 month I need a few painters, and then the next month I need 50. And it's like, how do I run a business that way? I don't know what I'm going to get. What I believe having the bonus based on hitting your goal does is it allows me to have some of that predictability where I can say, okay, like give or take, you're going to be pretty darn close to this goal. Even on the months that don't go great, we're trying our best. We're funneling towards hitting that goal. And if we miss it, we shouldn't miss it by much. But kind of to the same point, if we're selling double the goal, that's great. And I love it. And I want that person to make as much money as they possibly can. But I need to know is like, do we need to, can we raise the goals and raise the compensation? Is this something that we can be confident happening in the future? Or was this just like a one-off blip? And so anyway, so that's why we pay, the bonus to the goal. There's 2 other bonuses that our reps can earn. They're not worth quite as much. They are certainly secondary to the amount that they sell. So the next one is going to be win percentage. Marketing's expensive. And so if the more leads I have to give a sales rep to be able to go and sell the number of jobs and then, the amount of work that they need to, the more it costs me. And so if they have a high enough win percentage, they can earn that goal. Talked about it before, it's typically around 40 to 45%, depending on the experience and tenure of the rep. And then the third factor for us is how much per hour are we selling jobs at? So we give our reps some ability to, negotiate and discount and, have those conversations with homeowners. But if we're not making good decisions and maybe we're, underbidding a project or discounting it too much, that is going to lower the total amount that they sold on an hourly basis to the point where they might not earn that bonus. So that bonus factor, I believe, holds them a little bit accountable and incentivizes them to make sure that we're selling profitable jobs, that we're not just selling jobs, but that they're profitable.
Couple questions here. So are you happy with this method right now?
Yeah. I mean, so I'll say this, I think it's on the scale, it is towards the level of complicated. It is not as simple as saying, go sell stuff and I'm going to pay you 7%. Whatever you sell, you get 7%. That's simple. I believe that ideally all employees should be able to go home and tell their significant other or friend or, mom or whatever, this is how I get paid. I think our system, I'm certainly open to the idea that what I just described can be a little complicated. I don't really think it is when you maybe write it on a piece of paper or whatever. But I'm open to the idea that it is complicated. We've done other things in the past. I've paid salary plus commission, and I've paid salary plus commission based on gross profit. And some of the problems I just mentioned with profitability or wild sales swings were things that I experienced. And in general, I would say we get less of that with this type of a model that we've been using now for about 3 years.
So, I mean, I guess there's a couple of variables there. One, you mentioned like you run an employee system. So that's an important decision based on that, that need. Have you ever seen anyone or heard of anyone run a sub model where they can just sell as much as they want and make it work? I mean, I think that's the like dream, but obviously, you and I have chosen a model that is not
Hmm.
that,
Yeah.
for a number of reasons.
Yeah. I
Like,
mean, I think, so I think that is the air quotes, advantage, I guess, of having a subcontracted painter model.
mhm,
If the work is being produced by subcontracted painters, in theory, you have a Rolodex, if you will, of a lot of them, and so you can go produce things quickly. I have a friend who used to work as he used to own a CertaPro Painters franchise, and he told me that their business model, at least for his location, how he did it, was whatever they sold was to be produced next week.
mhm,
And the idea was sell as much as you possibly can, and then we're going to go produce it next week, and then go do it again.
mhm.
And that sounds
How
stressful.
how did he feel about that model at the
How
end of
did
the
he
day?
feel? I
Yeah.
mean, he thought it was great.
And he
They
was able to
crushed.
make it work.
Oh yeah, I mean, max revenue. You know, I mean, I can see where with the right people and things in place, man, you got to have a lot of good office staff and logistics and getting projects ready quickly and things like that.
Mhm.
But if you can pull it off, you're going to maximize revenue by doing that.
Right.
Um, the you're you know, but I mean, holy heck, does that seem stressful?
Hmm.
And I'm sure it was. Like I've know from hearing stories that you're not all subcontractors are good,
Hmm.
um, and certainly you're going to have projects that turn into nightmares, and you have bad customer experiences, and
Hmm.
you know, and you're just accepting of a hopefully relatively small percentage of that. Um, I would say I'm personally, I would just say like I'm probably less accepting of that. My tolerance level for unhappy customers is significantly lower. Um, I don't think that makes the way we do it better than that way. I just think it fits my personality better.
Yeah.
Um, he was producing more revenue, making more profit. Hard to argue he was doing well, but probably had maybe a slightly higher percentage of unhappy customers
Hmm.
because of it. And I don't think it'd be fair to say one is better than the other.
Yeah. So I mean, at the end of the day, the reason, like coming back to the basics here, is that we got to choose models that actually fit with what our vision and mission are,
100%.
and the structure of the company matters, right? So, um, if you're just looking for as much you can sell this week, and you've got fairly low overhead, maybe
Mm-hmm.
straight commission works, but you're putting a lot at risk. So, like figuring out like what works for you and your business is
Mm-hmm.
important, and knowing what the options are. Um, so yeah, I can tell you what we do too, because
Yeah.
it's a little different. Um, so we went with we have for a number of years gone with salary and commission,
Okay.
and it's a commission structure where you earn your base salary, you earn a commission, and if you sell jobs that are over a certain gross profit number, you receive an additional commission on that, um, kind of on a longer term time scale. So we do it yearly, uh, but we're reevaluating this because it comes with pros and cons too. A couple of the issues are that we have reps, a rep who sells over 3 million a year.
Pretty good.
That makes that salary and that kind of discrepancy of what every dollar he brings in decreases that salary. Like he's actually getting paid less salary wise than the people who are selling less work. Although the number is the same. Do you understand what I mean there? Like
The
his
percentage.
his
Right.
percentage of salary
Mm-hmm.
is so much smaller. And
Right.
so,
Yeah. If
um,
you pay me, yeah, I mean, just simple math, right? If you pay me $50,000 salary and I go sell 1 million, or
mhm,
if you pay me 50,000 salary and I go sell 2 million, the percentage of my sales that salary is half or
yeah,
double depending on what side you're looking at. Yep, I get it.
exactly.
Yep.
And so, it ends up, also like one of the issues there is that the percentage total commission paid gets smaller as the number gets bigger.
Okay.
right?
Well, yep.
Because, right? So instead of that being a benefit to the person, it actually becomes more of a benefit to the business. And so we've had to kind of reevaluate this based on a really, really high performer in the business to say, um, what does this look like? And the evaluation is, can we band this maybe quarterly? So if you
Mm.
hit certain sales thresholds, that commission level goes up.
Yeah.
And I've seen this method, like you mentioned, like CertaPro uses this method. There's a few other painting companies that I've seen, or franchise level, that use this method too, where they incentivize as much sales as they can in a quarter, and then
Hmm.
you start at zero the next quarter, and you're trying to work your way up. And so it's a constant game of how much commission can I get this quarter.
Hmm.
I think there's issues there too, but overall, it starts to incentivize the right behavior at the right time of year,
Yeah.
right? So that might be a way to kind of bring that more into equilibrium. The other issue we found, and you mentioned it kind of in your um, how you structured it with an incentive for gross profit, is that our method doesn't take into account bad sales
Profitability. Yeah. Okay.
profitability, and so we've found that we have reps who might hit their target numbers but are selling bad jobs.
Mm.
It's a risk that we take, and we're not properly aligned on that. So um, but in an effort to keep it simple, we've just done it this way, and that's worked for us. But changes are definitely needed. So we're looking at that pretty closely to be like, what do we do here to incentivize our top performers,
Mhm.
as well as, de-incentivize this kind of negative profitability that we're seeing.
Question on that. Have
Mm-hmm.
you done it or considered where, if a job comes in at whatever, too low of a gross profit, whatever
Mm-hmm.
that is, like a bad job, right? Not just like we missed it by a little, where the sales rep actually loses that commission on that sale, or essentially like whatever. If you do it monthly, it's like
Mm-hmm.
they're starting this month with a negative they got to kind of work out of because of this bad job that they sold last month or whatever. Because reality, obviously you're not going to get money back from them, but you're kind of taking it out of that future commission.
Yeah,
Um, have you done anything like that or thought of that?
we have. Inevitably, there's fighting that occurs with that finger
Yeah, right.
finger
Why
pointing,
did it
right?
happen?
Why did it happen? And the why becomes such a big issue that sometimes it's more valuable for us to look at a long term, like performance. Like, you might have a couple bad jobs in a month, but that might get sorted out. And what you're saying, I think, is true, but you might be able to sort that out in the next month. So if it's done quarterly, you have some time. Um,
Mm.
Whereas, like, because then you'll see a trend. Are you actually selling poor jobs and nobody can perform them?
Mm.
Or was it just a couple crews who actually, like, they quit the next week and they weren't incentivized?
Sure.
Right. And
Yeah.
so, like, we're trying to give as much time as we can. That's why we've gone with the year long, kind of over the year, if you could, the ebbs and flows, if you can make that work. But
Mhm.
the time horizon's not right. And the punishment um, isn't as direct as what you're talking about. So that
Mm.
might work. Like, we might be able to get that done, but man, it's like always the crew's fault. And the crew, when they don't get their bonus, it's always the estimator's fault. So it's very difficult to tell, other than seeing trends. So I think it's worth mentioning too. So we've got salary and commission on gross profit. Do you want to just cover that a little bit? I know you mentioned
Yeah.
you did it, but
Yeah.
how does it work?
Yeah. So we did, similar to what you just described, except instead of calculating the commission on the top line sale, we calculated the commission on the amount of actual gross profit that came in. So this is going to really solve for the problem we were just talking about of profitability, selling bad jobs. So, you know, really at the end of the day, what matters in our businesses is that gross profit, right? How much of that is flowing so that we can cover overhead and then obviously drop that down to operating or net profit. And so instead of, paying whatever, let's just use the number of 6% of the top line sale amount, we're going to pay a higher percentage on the gross profit. So make math simple. If our target gross profit is 50%, or half of the revenue, then we can double the commission percentage and the math is still, same amount of money. Sales rep is not losing out. So if we sell let's say we sold a $10,000 project, we should have $5,000 in gross profit. If we were going to pay 6% of the top line commission, or $600, we could now pay 12% of the gross profit of $5,000 and end up with the same number. The problem, I think there's two main problems that we ran into. So one is what you just described. Say I've read before, I think we've probably all heard this, that we need to incentivize, whether it's through bonuses or commissions or otherwise. People's pay need to be tied to the things that they have some control over. In life, we like to think we have control over more than we probably actually do. But the perception of control, I think, is exceptionally important for motivating a team member, or having them be motivated, I would say. And like you just mentioned, if sales reps feel like, hey, I'm selling jobs and the painters suck and they're not producing it well, and they're painting slow or buying too much paint, or whatever the factors are for why we're not hitting the gross profit of 50%, I'm not happy, and sure as shit, John's going to hear about it. Right? And I got sick of playing whatever, the cop in that situation. The other problem is the time lag. So I sell a job in January, we produce it in February or March. And so it's like, when I actually calculate that gross profit is not until the job's done, obviously. And so when am I paying that commission? Do I pay some of it on the upfront? I'm going to pay you based on getting to 50%. And then when it's all said and done, we'll balance. I think that's probably a good way of doing it. Because if I sell a job in January and I'm not going to get any commission or bonus or whatever for that until March, when the actual job is done and paid for, how is that motivating? I am not going to go out on Friday afternoon and just, man, I can't wait to go sell some more jobs. Let's go, so that in 2 months from now, I can get a little bit of extra money. Most people cannot connect what they do today to what they're going to have in the future, which is why we have problems with credit card debt and retirement savings and diet and weight loss and fitness and things like that, right? This is not a problem specific to sales reps or the painting industry. And we are, as humans, we want, something as close to instant gratification as possible. Some people are better at this than others. But we have to be really careful as to, how quickly are we getting sales reps their compensation? And if you're paying off gross profit, depending on how you're doing it, that could be a big problem.
Totally. I mean, we have a lot of jobs that get sold a year out.
Wow.
Especially with the summer season, right? So
yeah.
We've encountered that already, where we do pay commission based on completed jobs, and it's like, yay, you just sold a massive job, and we're so excited, and we're gonna pay you in a year.
Yeah.
So the balance there is hard, right? Like we've found gross profit to be an incredibly valuable metric, but incredibly difficult to pay on because of what you just mentioned, right? And that's what's kept us coming back to this, keep it simple. Do something extra for gross profit, kind of what you're talking about. When your jobs are profitable, bring that back around.
Bonus.
But it's not it's not something to ground it on. Now, I know a lot of great business owners who use a gross profit model, and it works great for them. And again, maybe their accounting systems are better.
Yep.
Maybe their reps have enough been built up reserve to actually keep getting paid, or they have some type of draw system to kind of benefit that as well. But I've seen a lot of great companies, especially in commercial, use straight gross profit commission. There's no salary, and it works. But again, it's just not something that's worked for our model.
I think I would imagine it works well when there is a pretty good predictability to what the gross profit's going to be.
Yeah,
and you're not seeing wild swings. I would imagine it works well with, again, more experienced reps that are working in companies that they've been at for a while, and they know that while, hey, this project maybe didn't go as well, I know that most of them do. I'm not going to make a big deal out of it.
Yeah.
I've got a track record. I know that our painters are good. I trust them. They're doing a good job. If this one didn't go well, I probably made a mistake just as much as they did, and let's move on. But
yeah, I mean,
I can see that.
So let's dig that back just a little bit. I mean, again, like you if you're going to go with this model or a lot of these sales models, like you better understand your numbers. Like, you got to understand how to estimate. This can't be a wild guessing game, because if you're going to use like a gross profit model, like, can you imagine if you're, going and setting someone in who doesn't have experience or doesn't have a system and is like, bid this job, and then like the arguments you're going to get into, or like, bid it on $500 increments. It's like, I don't know, right? And so you need to have some predictability in your business in order to introduce some of these models.
For sure.
And like the other thing too with this is like you have predictability. Like we have like honed in our production rates over the years, and like know pretty darn well what is going to be acceptable for time in production. But inevitably, when things go sideways, the positive is that you get a lot of involvement from the sales rep on the production side. The negative is that you get a lot of involvement from the sales rep on the production side. And now you've got another project manager in the mix, right? Like, let me tell you how to do your job, because you're not doing very good. And no one appreciates that micromanaging. So
I think the other problem though is, do you want your sales reps, at jobs, or do you want them out selling work?
totally.
I don't think the answer is necessarily like 100%, never go to a job site, but it's like, I want you to go and sell jobs that can be profitable, and then go and sell more jobs that can be profitable. I don't want you to go and sell jobs and then go and manage those jobs, although that is a model. There are people in our industry that do that, but that's not what we're talking about, I don't think.
Yeah, it's a tough one, right? Like we're talking about very siloed job titles here.
Yeah, right. If your job is to sell and you're really good at that, the time you're spending worried about how fast the painters are painting or how much paint we're buying is not good. No, that's not the best use of your time.
No, not at all. What else is there to talk about here? I mean, straight commission. Have you seen that used before?
I hear about it all the time. I honestly can't think of a specific example in our industry.
Yeah.
We mentioned, I think we talked about before, like, you can call a salary a draw, which is kind of the same thing. There are differences. It just comes back to like, is it earned or not? I think one of the things that we've certainly run into over the years, and I think anybody doing this long enough, is like, when do you consider commissions and bonuses as earned, which comes up when team members leave. If you have a sales rep that's no longer employed, when are they eligible for that commission? Do they have to be an employee when the project is finished to earn the commission? Or do they have to be an employee at the end of the month to earn the monthly bonus? Things like that. There are legal requirements, and some of it is up to the company to make policies around. But those are certainly things that business owners need to, make considerations on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of questions to kind of look at when you're thinking about that kind of stuff, right? Like, it's not always clear, I think, to when you set this up, what the issues are going to be per se. Like, you might, when the payouts happen, that's important to the rep, but it's not being discussed up front, right? Like, you can get a rep that comes in, and next thing you know, they're being blindsided. So figuring out how to get that information out up front, super important.
Yeah, I mean, there's legit like cash flow concerns, right? If you're paying, let's just say, again, you sell a $10,000 job and you make 6%, and you're going to pay that when they sell it. If you get, let's just, again, we'll use this as an example. If you get a no deposit, which I don't suggest that, but if you get no deposit, you're now in a negative cash cycle on that job. Let's say you sell it in January, you're producing it in March, maybe at the end of January, you pay out that commission. You're now paying commission on that, and you don't have the cash to pay it. You're paying it out of reserves. again, like those are all considerations as to how these things work.
Yeah, interesting.
We generally consider a sale when a customer has signed and paid a deposit.
Mm-hmm.
And then from that point, we can, count that as a, sale for that month where they can earn their bonus.
Interesting. Yeah, we used to do it that way, but then the issue of like that 1 year out
Sure.
type came up. So we pay out like half the commission. We hold back half because the worst case scenario is the rep leaves or the job leaves. And
right. Sure. Right. Customer cancels. Yeah.
Next thing you've got, a $300,000 job with commission paid on that. You're like, okay, that's a hard one. Not that every job's that big, but it does happen, right? So,
are you getting a deposit on that $300,000 job that you're going to do in a year, or how's that work?
A lot of the times when you're dealing with like an HOA or condo board, we're not getting a deposit. We're going to sign contract.
Got it.
Because they're not willing also to give us a deposit that far out.
Right. Sure.
So
there's the risk that they never see you again.
Exactly. Right. So, that's not our style. And I think our reputation speaks to that, but they've maybe been burned or heard of people getting burned before. So
sure.
we'll try to get a deposit from them like a month before, just make sure they're serious. But, we run into that quite a bit, especially when we're a year out. We might only take a $500 deposit on a big job just to shore it up and make sure it's legal. I think
all interesting.
So the last thing here, which is relevant to all of this, is that there's a bunch of fringe benefits too, and we kind of alluded to them at the start. But we've kind of, when I look at it, I'm like, okay, it's the percentage paid plus sales reps get a couple of other benefits. What are they for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think the things that you're going to like really tie back to are going to be, either company cars or vehicle stipends. Typically, what we've done historically is that when a new rep starts, we don't go out and purchase a vehicle for them, but they do get a vehicle stipend to use their own. They're going to have a company credit card to purchase fuel and those types of things. Company cell phone, computer, iPad, bunch of uniform. We give them a uniform budget where they can buy, some logoed gear from our vendor. And then some of the same stuff that all of our employees have, which is going to be our 401k with a match, health insurance, dental, vision, life insurance, and paid time off. And the paid time off with sales reps is often tricky because the reality is that like sales reps are often out of the office doing their thing. I don't want to micromanage their days, and I don't want to know like, oh, you only worked 7.5 hours today or whatever the hell.
Right.
I really don't want to do that with anybody, but especially with sales reps. And I don't think anybody in a sales role wants that. I think somebody who wants that type of a sales role really is looking for some sort of flexibility. Give me some, kind of independence where I can make good decisions on how I want to use my time and really just judge me on my results. They don't want to be micromanaged, especially to their time. And so generally what I've always done with sales reps is like they have PTO just like all other employees to, kind of fit within the handbook and make it fair to everybody. But I tell them like, look, if you're hitting your sales goals and things are going well, like I'm not going to ask you what you're doing on Friday afternoon in the middle of summer. Like, good job, go do something fun. Don't, don't take the company car so that our painters are wondering what you're doing at the pool or whatever.
Right.
I don't want to hear about this later on. But, let's call it what it is. I'm good. They're doing evening appointments. They're doing weekend stuff. It's not this job doesn't fit within a nice little box all the time. And so it's like, hey, if you want to go work out, at the middle of the day, you go do an appointment or two in the morning, you go do the hour and a half, 2 hour lunch where you get your workout in and you do your thing. And then you go do some late afternoon, evening appointments. Cool. That's fine. Don't really, it's all good.
So how do you present that up front?
Just like that. Honestly, we just have
like
a
that.
conversation.
Just exactly like that.
The
whole pool thing too.
I'm going to share this podcast with them. And no, I mean, that's how I tell them like, look, I don't want to babysit you. Like, I don't have time for it. You don't want it. I don't want it. Like, here's your paid time off. Here's your sick time. Here's your holiday pay like everybody else in our company gets.
Mhm.
Those are, those are yours. Want you to use them. And then in addition to that, it's, you have some flexibility. If you abuse it, I'm going to take it away, that
Yeah.
flexibility.
Yeah.
If you are not hitting your goals, I'm going to take it away. If you're
Mhm.
hitting your goals and you're being a good teammate and you're, whatever, doing the right things, then again, I'm not going to ask you what you're doing, on individual days or whatever.
Yeah.
And really what we do is like it's kind of just a model of like they have to have some availability to do appointments. Generally, it's like every other Saturday you got to have the morning open to do 2 or 3 appointments. You've got to have again depending on time of year like 1 or 2 evenings available to do appointments.
Mhm.
But they have a lot of flexibility as to like which days and different things like that.
Right. So so you're selling a bit, I mean, not selling, but like part of the role is that it's beneficial is that it's flexible.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Yep, I
good
would say so.
work-life balance. You kind of pick and choose how you want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Meet your goals. No one's going to care. I mean, I love all that stuff. Do you actually structure anything around what the responsibilities are up front? Like amount of time or amount of
Mm-hmm.
the
Yeah, I mean, I
results or
do
how
give
that's
some.
structured?
Yeah, I would say like broad strokes, right? I would tell most sales reps it's about a 45 hour a week job
Mm-hmm.
most of the year. Some times of the year, maybe in December, you might only work 35 hours a week, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Not, again, that's as a business owner, I enjoy that same type of a privilege. But I also know as a business owner, there's going to be times in the spring where I'm going to be very busy on a Saturday and certainly working whatever 50 or 60 hours.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody can relate to that swing. Um, so yeah, that's I think those
That
are
makes
just upfront conversations that we're having during the interview process and stuff.
that makes sense. I mean, we have we could probably do a better job at that, like just kind of crafting what the vision looks like. I've essentially we've always presented as being like, we work to our goal.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever it takes to get to that goal, I want to see you working to it. And if you, like you said, if you have a Friday afternoon that's available and you've hit your goal, why do I care?
Right.
But the problem that I've run into is that I am like the worst micromanager. Like my my ability to shift like my personality from being super chill to like a crazy micromanager, like in a second based on performance is really hard. And so people are like, well, you never told me about these expectations. I was like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you just work to the goal. And it was like, and they're like, yeah, but I can do that in 20 hours a week. And it's like, but you're not. And
Yeah.
so
Well,
those
right.
discussions are like probably really valuable up front to say, look, here, here's how this should look. Here's the vision of what this looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the benefits. Like these are fringe benefits to have a
Mm-hmm.
flexible, work
Yeah.
schedule. And, here's how this looks if it's not being achieved. And here's your, fringe benefits in addition and your compensation. And let's go. Right. Like that's kind of the total package I can see.
And I think you would probably agree that like once if somebody's really enjoying those whatever Fridays off because they're crushing it, maybe the next month they're not crushing it. It can be
Mm-hmm.
very difficult to change those behaviors and turn that person, you know, no, you got to work 60 hours this week to
Mm-hmm.
hit the goals. Um,
Totally. Totally.
and I think that is a very like fine line to be very careful with. That once you give benefits and like whatever time off and flexibility, it's very hard to take it away. People get used to that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. We see that time and time again. And it goes back to the discussion of like, when the results aren't there, how to change your behavior. And it's very hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's very hard. And so trying to like give flexibility and also take away flexibility, I've
Sure.
found to be very difficult, but it's also needed for this position.
For sure. Yeah. And that's where, again, it's like, don't abuse it. You have a little bit of flexibility, but you're not an independent rep. This is not up to you to decide, I really just don't feel like selling much this week. Not acceptable.
Yeah.
Um, that's where, again, like having the salary and things like that is all a big part of our whole mindset. Like
Mm-hmm.
the salary is like what you're getting paid to work full time here. And then the bonuses and commissions are what you're getting paid based on the results that you're driving.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
Cool.
my last thought here, I mean, just to wrap it up, I mean,
Yeah.
obviously there's a number of sales compensation models. We've covered a few of them. I'm sure there's other ones too. Like honestly, I've seen people do straight salary. I mean,
Unlimited.
there's an unlimited. It's no one size fits all solution for sure. Um, and whether you opt in for like one straight or you combine these, I think it's important to remember that the compensation is not just financial. It's also an alignment with your business and with your vision and your values of that business,
Mhm.
and that those core things drive the system, drive your team, allow people around you
Mhm.
to be inspired, and bring the talent you want on the team. So that's my thought. If you're using another model
Yeah.
that works, let us know. I'm always open ears to this subject because it's like it's so interesting. It's human behavior, it's human dynamics,
Mhm.
it's psychology. There's a lot at play here, and so love to hear it. And yeah, I hope you guys found this valuable. You know what
Yeah.
to do if you do.
Yeah, I think it's a good last thought. Quick is I think this is a good place to like don't just go rip off what somebody else is doing,
Mhm.
because you really have to understand like the pros and cons and the trade offs of each one, and there is no right answer. There are
Mhm.
a lot of good answers, but there is no system that I've ever heard of that does not come with its own like negative, side effects, if you will. And you have to pick and choose which ones are going to be right for you as the business owner and your values and how you want to do things. And so talk to a lot of people, get the input, but really try to understand like, what are the pros and cons and what am I incentivizing and disincentivizing by each of these decisions I'm making on how I'm compensating reps.
Totally. Love it.
Cool.
Love it, Michael. We'll leave it
Awesome.
there. And
Good
as
stuff.
always, we'll see you guys again soon.